welcome to our live on our Sovereign Dialogue sessions. A little time that we put aside every week when we're in a season of Sovereign Dialogue to talk about some of the issues that are coming up, to explore things in a little bit more depth, to maybe pick out some teaching points that David or I notice that come up during the sessions. And this is just a chance for us to pad them out a bit, give some more details, and have that as a resource available for people to explore who might be considering joining us on Sovereign Dialogue or who are regulars and who want a bit more connection with it.
Yeah.
So we've just moved to a new system, a new emphasis. Our theme this season is "It's all in you." So sovereign leadership is very, very much predicated on the assumption that everything you need is within you and that you have the tools that you need to access all of that. And that can take a bit of practice. It sometimes needs you to weave through some of your belief systems a little bit and learn how to bypass your tendencies and um,
Habits and
unconscious
patterns.
patterns and
Yeah.
habits.
Yeah.
But that's fairly simply done. It takes a while for it to be habitually done, but that is available to absolutely everyone, and therefore the qualities of sovereign leadership, of self-responsibility, of creativity, are available to everyone. So this season we're doing it without setting a question. Previously, we have always set a question to help guide people's dialoguing. And it's just a technique where you download information, you allow your body to kind of lead and give you the information it's ready to give you, and you record that however you want to. Most people do it by writing. So we're noticing quite a lot, aren't we, David? Things are getting quite interesting in that room. It's been really enjoyable.
Mm.
Anything you want to um, fill in or follow up with from
Mm.
that introduction?
Yeah, and I think the main thing that we're noticing is whilst there might be historically in other sessions there would have been a question that gave people a particular direction and they could kind of go wherever they wanted to go in that particular in the theme of that particular question. So therefore we would notice themes that were emerging that crossed over with different people's experience. What we're noticing now is that there's no question, so everyone has the freedom to explore and go wherever it is that they want to go. And the idea behind that being, if it's all in you, then again, one of the themes of sovereign leadership has always been that you have this guide within you, you have this wisdom within you, and it is available to you 24/7. So you don't have to wait to have a phone call with a mentor. You don't have to wait for the call for the course. You don't have to send an email to somebody to get advice or to get guidance. The guidance is available to you all the time. It's just a question of um, developing the practice to be able to do that with ease and with uh, uh, like enough depth to be able to really sense into your authentic expression and what it is that wants to emerge and be expressed through you. So um, it's kind of like an ongoing process of deepening your awareness and your sensitivity to, to these things. So it seemed like a very natural progression to move away from a single question to, well, it's open season really, because that's ultimately what you're going to be doing and using sovereign dialogue for in your everyday life. What is the guidance? What guidance do I need for my business, for my relationships, for my health, for my wealth, for my well-being, for my home space? What hobbies do I want to be doing? All of that stuff. And to habitually find that quiet space within yourself so that you can really hear those clear answers is really, really important. So that's
Yeah.
why that's one of the another one of the reasons why we're taking this extra step. But what's really interesting then is, although everyone's going off and doing their separate dialoguing and taking their own themes, we're finding that the themes are interweaving anyway.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. So there are themes. So what we wanted to do was explore some of those themes today, because it is really interesting, and we got no answer as to why should be the case.
Interesting, but not surprising.
Interesting, but
I
not
think it
surprising.
would be fair to say.
It would be fair to say.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's nice to see it actually kind of falling out in that way, and to have that reported back by the group when we have our group debrief.
Yeah,
Just the synergy that they're noticing in their room, in their breakout rooms,
exactly.
that um, yeah, very different contributions, but everything weaves together in some way. So that, as always, I think one of the most valuable aspects of this structure is the time that people have in those breakout rooms, where they get very affirmed, they're they're witnessed, people
Yeah.
listen very fully, and then they're kind of met where they are, very just fully, with full-bodied attention
Yeah.
and commitment, and to have that happen when you don't know where the starting point is,
Mm,
because people could be starting in such different places from their own dialogue practice, and yet they come to the room and somehow to have that sense of it all coming together.
yeah.
um, I think it's very confidence giving in
Mm,
our humanity and connection
yeah.
in a lot of
Well,
ways.
well, to use a word that you used today, it's very affirming.
Yeah.
And it feels like that might be the starting point to our exploration today. This beautiful expression that you came up or that you came up in your with your you came up with in your dialoguing was that everything is affirmative.
Mm.
So I think that's a really, yeah, that seemed to resonate in the group really beautifully.
Yeah, it was a really lovely moment, because it was just a little, almost a subtext at the end, came as a last little thought, because a lot of my own guidance recently is to just take small steps. I'm dealing with some very big emotional changes in my life, and it makes perfect sense that my intuition is saying, okay, just take small steps, and that if you have a varied day, you're having a good day. If you're
Mm,
having a monotone day, it's not such a good day, because you've got stuck in something. And I was noticing how quickly I get over that being enough.
mm,
Like, I should be back into big leaps, I should be back into big commitment, and that's not the case. So there was this critical voice coming through again,
mm,
and that, just that little line of dialogue coming through, that everything is affirmative, there are choices to make, there is nothing to fix.
mm.
So that everything we do, you can see it as an affirmative choice, rather than something you blame yourself about, or
Yeah,
you beat yourself up over, or you bemoan or worry about.
yeah,
And instead go, okay, what's the affirmative choice here?
mm,
What is the possibility that I can make,
yeah,
that I can add to, rather than sitting here detracting
yeah,
from,
yeah, yeah,
constantly eating away at the goodness of my life.
exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. I was running a networking event earlier this morning, and the theme was the inner critic. And we did some embodiment work around what the inner critic looks like, giving people having some fun with, creating the persona and, all of that sort of stuff.
Excellent.
It was a lot of fun. And then we did the sovereign centering. And what was really interesting, which isn't surprising to us, I know, but what was really interesting is, whilst the inner critic by its nature is critical. The voice of the sovereign is really loving and compassionate towards the critic.
Mm,
And I was saying to people on the call, this is the starting point of, rather than the critic like not like just either having a go at sovereign or turning its back, that this is the beginning of there being a dialogue between the two of them, and that's where the healing happens. That's where you get the inner critic coming on side, because there's always a
mm,
there's a reason for the inner critic, and it isn't all bad. So if you can get the inner critic on side so that it really supports you in your sovereign leadership, then that's a really beautiful thing. And it really surprised people like it was consistent across the group when people fed back, just the kindness and the patience and the loving and the inclusion that sovereign brings even to the inner critic. Yeah, was really lovely to witness. And I think we're really noticing, the reason that I'm sharing that is because this idea of everything is affirmative, I think really speaks to that.
mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
And I think trying to excise any part of ourselves is one of the most damaging things we can do.
mm,
Um, we're creatures of wholeness. We don't believe we are, but all of the matter and the thoughts and the emotions that make up. Okay, the cat. It's an hour to the cat's tea time. I'm gonna have to let it out. It's gonna be
right.
noisy. Excuse me. Tigger's decided it's supper time already.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, trying to excise any part of us
Mm,
is to deny our wholeness,
yep.
to deny that that part of us has a function and has a history that is valid, that it's there for a reason. It may not be a reason that's useful anymore. It may have outgrown its usefulness, but
Mm,
nevertheless, um, we may we make this stuff up because we have a relationship with the world.
yep.
And so the more we can just, I think, bring that sense of acceptance and okayness to all of who we are,
Mm,
including the critic and the bits of us that we don't always want to own.
mm, yep.
It's one less roadblock in your own pathway, isn't it? It's one less roadblock that you're putting up ahead of yourself that you have to kind of leap over or scramble over somehow in order to keep going. It's just
Mm,
it makes it from a kind of like massive obstacle that you've got to somehow get over to just a little smooth bump in the road, or even something you just put on your sidecar and go, okay, come on, you're coming with me.
right.
Come
Yeah.
for the ride.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of speaks to that phrase that I hear occasionally in the sort of spirituality circles as, like include and transcend. It just including all the parts of ourselves, that then by doing that, it allows us then to transcend, and transcend like the whole of ourselves transcends, not just
Mm.
particular parts. It's the whole integrated whole. Um, so yeah, that feels like that really aligns.
And I think there are lots of models of both personal development and of leadership that don't allow that.
Mm,
They don't allow faults and problems to exist. They want to excise them. They want to kind of clear those beliefs,
mm,
pretend they're not there. And it's the most impossible thing on the planet
mm,
to get rid of that aspect of our humanness. It's not possible. It's part of who we are.
mm,
Um, and so I think that getting a practice and a habit of allowing it and accepting it, and in our model, particularly that step of acceptance is
yep,
hugely important.
yeah,
Awareness, acceptance, and choice
yeah,
are the foundation of sovereign leadership.
yeah,
Um, and that's very much that everything's affirmative comes very much in the acceptance step. I think it's like going, okay, yeah, that is. Therefore, it is, therefore it is. So there's no point in me wishing it wasn't. It's just
Exactly.
it is. So right, okay, let's be okay with that, and then let's not put it in the driving seat because it's not going to take me in the direction I want to go, but let me compassionately bring it with me,
Mm.
lovingly bring that part of me with me rather than pretending it doesn't exist and trying to leave it on the roadside somewhere. Dump
And I,
it.
and I think that leads really beautifully into something that one of the participants said, which was about experiencing pain.
Mm,
And she was talking very much about this idea of, like, she was kind of getting a bit and a bit frustrated and angry at the pain that she was feeling. And she found a way through her dialoguing um, to be much kinder towards her pain and to ease back from her pain so that she didn't experience the discomfort that she was experiencing. And um, and I was saying to I said on the call that in the Feldenkrais training that I've been doing, just completed my 4 year teacher training. One of the themes that comes up again and again and again and again is people are doing these movements. They're not athletic, they're non-athletic movements, but they're very simple movements of, bending your leg or rotating or, whatever it is that it might be. But even in those movements, people still can experience pain, they can experience discomfort, they can experience tension, resistance, um, and also like sometimes like that kind of crunchy feeling that you can sometimes get, like, I know, like in your neck or in your shoulder blades, and you're like, part of you kind of goes, "Oh, what was that?" All of those things. And that what the Feldenkrais method really points to is don't push through, don't carry on regardless. If this is where your pain is, if this is where the first feeling of your pain or even tension or resistance is here, and you're traveling in this direction, don't try and push through it. Stop before it,
mm,
and then move back, and then come close and back, and then what magically seems to happen often, not always, but often, is that as I repeat this movement, then the pain threshold starts to move away so I can move more. And sometimes it disappears completely. So
mm,
suddenly, doing a simple movement that was painful, suddenly the pain just disappears. And when I was doing my training and I was learning about this stuff, I was thinking, well, this is exactly the same as what we're talking about in sovereign leadership, is that if you experience emotion that's painful, don't pull away from it and ignore it, and don't push through it as if you're, like, for example, if you're grieving, don't push through your grief. If your grief is there, then allow yourself to feel it, and you move through that much, much faster because you're not ignoring it, but you're also not indulging it in a way of oh, poor me and all of that. That you're giving it the space that it needs, and in doing that, the feeling, whatever it is, be it grief or stress or anxiety or whatever, it dissolves, and then you can move through with real ease. So I'm
mm,
loving this this kind of parallel that is happening with, I mean, it happens in coaching, obviously, because we're coaches, so we're doing it with sovereign leadership, but also with the Feldenkrais method, there is this sense of um, meeting your pain, meeting your discomfort or resistance with kindness and compassion and gentleness
mm.
seems to do the work much better.
Yeah, I really loved you sharing that because it there are two things. It takes me back to when I was a massage therapist. It was one of my previous
I
jobs.
didn't know that. I mean,
Yeah,
full of
yeah,
surprises.
for a long time, for quite a long time, I was a massage therapist, and I used to love doing deep massages, and that's partly why I'm not any longer because in the end, my knuckles just couldn't couldn't take
Mm,
it. Because I liked the deep work, and people came to me who liked deep work. And then I went for a massage with a friend of mine, And I said, I really like it deep. And she said, okay, you might find this a bit odd, but I promise it will be deep. And she barely touched me.
Mm.
But her work was so deeply energetic that I
Mm.
felt afterwards like she'd gone right into the muscles. There was this incredible sensation of both not being touched and of the muscles being really deeply worked as well. It was extraordinary,
Right.
and taught me a lot, taught me an awful lot about how I could adapt my own
Mm.
approach to massage. But the other thing I think is really important, and it's something about these dialogue sessions, um, and the intention we've always had behind calling them an hour-long retreat that's a
Mm.
part of your week,
Mm.
is that um, I think somebody said in our session on Tuesday, maybe, or last week, it's a 1 hour permission to slow down, take care, and feel my body.
Yeah.
And certainly for me, there was that moment that was a trifle awkward because I was part of leading the session. But when you'd done the meditation on Tuesday, and then I just kind of reconnected with a big well of grief for my mum,
Mm.
and suddenly saw this huge space that she's in. For me as a present, she's there. And it was both fascinating. It was a very difficult moment in some ways because it put me right on that kind of much more emotional edge relative to it. But it it clearly reopened a connection that I was back in life trying, that was getting slightly papered over, which I don't think is it's not how I want to experience
Yeah.
um, adapting to life beyond my mum's physical presence in the world.
Mm.
But it was because of that session, it reconnected with me with this, at a place of pain without a doubt, but also a place of great promise, because that's where my future relationship with my mum sits.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
not, I'm not going to find it by coping and getting over things. I'm going to find it by being deeply with it and reforging a new kind of whatever it is, conversation, presence, imagining how, I don't know how it's going to be really.
Mm.
And it was our session that gave me access to that, and we've both had our moments, haven't we, where our sovereign dialogue has really, really transformed something for us, and it makes me very proud of the work we do and very affirmed, again that word, in this approach,
Mm.
because I think whatever our area of leadership, our world is very focused on coping and on, you know, we can do this, we can get through, and actually we all need a space that doesn't inevitably take us into kind of strong emotions, but can if it's needed,
Yeah.
can if something's hiding that
Mm.
needs to be revealed, worked with, absorbed, experienced, in order to move on in a much more wholesome way than by kind of doing the la 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 approach
Yeah.
to it. So yeah, I think, and that sense of, again, with for me, with that grieving journey of being able to go into it and not have to push through and not, you know, head for the hills,
Yeah.
but to just feel in and then back off a bit and feel in again and let it dissolve naturally,
Yeah.
feels such a valuable
Totally.
approach and opportunity.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. And as someone who personally has, experienced some emotional trauma that's had quite a big impact on my, on my left arm, my left shoulder, my left side, healing myself from that trauma, but then also, um, what's the word? Like rehabbing my body so that I move towards greater function. Like that whole process has all been exactly what you're saying, this coming close and moving away and coming close and moving away, and it just sort of dissolves all the little barriers that you just can't do that in a conscious, logical, thought out way. It has to be done slowly and it has to be felt.
Mm.
And that's the process, and it takes as long as it takes. There is no, looking at the clock and it's taking too long. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So that's why for me sovereign leadership is like a lifelong practice,
Mm.
um, that can be very fulfilling when done in community, right? Because
Mm.
community often gives us some support and some reassurance sometimes when we're you know, feeling a bit wobbly and feeling a
Yeah.
bit unsure about things from time to time.
Yeah. And then it gives us community as well to
Yeah,
explore those things with, as well as to celebrate the things that are just romping along as a result of the time that you've given to actually not trying to force them to romp along.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, it's like a lifelong process of growing up, really, isn't
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What am I going to do when I grow up?
it?
Yeah, that old question.
I'm going to be even more sovereign.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So any further thoughts about what's come up this week or about this season so far?
So there was a really tender moment in one of the breakout rooms that got fed back to the main group where someone was sharing what they'd got in their sovereign dialogue, and then they finished it by saying, "Oh, and that's all." And the person that they were sharing their breakout room with said, you know, something like, so I'm not quoting it maybe completely accurately, but the essence of it was, there's a lot more inside of you, than you realize.
Mm.
And what I realize is that I've been doing this sovereign dialogue process for probably about 30 years, but not called it that until quite recently. And I've had my sort of different versions of it.
Mm.
And it never ceases to surprise me what comes out of me.
Yeah.
The wisdom, the poetry, the insight, like stuff that it's like stuff I can't know
Yeah.
up here, but somehow it's finding its way out of the pen. Um, and I don't want this to sound woo, and I love woo, but I also have a science background, and so there's a part of me that's like I'm just, I can't just rest on, oh, it's just woo, right? But that there is, again, we're again, I used this explanation earlier on in this networking call that I was on. There is this thing about, the two branches, broadly speaking, but the two branches of your nervous system, the one that is oriented towards stress, the fight flight response, and the side of you that's oriented towards relationship and creativity and adaptability and um, 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 that all of that stuff, that wonderful stuff. And that when your nervous system switch goes over to that creative side, amazing things begin to emerge. And that is what sovereign centering and sovereign dialogue is all about.
Yeah.
If we can get away from being in our fight or flight, because life just demands so much of us, and it so much from us, and it can be quite stressful. Um, but to have these little retreats, these little havens of being in our creativity and being in our wholeness and really being able to feel that, means that this wisdom that's within us actually gets expressed. And I think that's a really wonderful thing. And again, there's
Well,
no end to that either.
there's no end to it, and it's it is a constant kind of um don't know what the right word is, but when more and more of you gets revealed and is there for you, and you're following your own guidance to further your life rather than trying to squeeze yourself through somebody else's 5-step process that worked brilliant for them because that happened to push their buttons, but it works terribly for you because it isn't you.
Yeah.
But instead you're following your own guidance, because I remember, I think one of the things that certainly you've noticed through this process of not having a question is just the how consolidated the information gets and how consistent it gets when there's something that needs working through or changing in order to shift your life or your business towards more towards the pathways you want it to run on. It
Yeah.
doesn't go away, it just keeps coming back
Yeah.
until you take action on it
Yeah.
and start to address and change it, and then that gets reflected in the writing because it's not such an urgent issue anymore, or it's not holding you up so much, or in the other direction, when it's something you want to work towards and you're ignoring it or avoiding it, it'll just keep coming back.
Mhm.
um and I think it is kind of wonderful.
Mhm.
It's wonderful that there is part of us that has that available. It's also wonderful how much more accessible it is than most people think.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
hear so many people say, I'm not imaginative, I don't know, I don't have that sort of stuff going on. It's like, well, it'll probably come differently to you than it does for me. As quite a visual person, for example, I get quite visual information. Other people get very kind of sense of knowing or words or whatever. It doesn't matter how it comes.
Mhm.
But everybody has the facility to
Mhm.
access that kind of well within themselves. And when you act on it, you learn just how spot on it is and
Mhm.
how much confidence you can have in yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, oh my gosh, and then everything opens up because you're just you know in any moment. And if you don't know, which is an even better place to be actually, if you don't know, you 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 know how to just wait until the information comes for you. You're
Yep.
not going to not know forever.
Yep.
Something's going to come. It will. You get that confidence of like,
Yep.
oh, something's going to come.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're kind of um, aiming for in terms of this change of structure as well, isn't it? That sense of some people are still maybe a little bit edgy without a question because they're used to the kind of security or confidence that guidance or that framework gives them.
Mhm.
And they don't yet have the confidence of free flowing it from themselves. But hopefully, as we progress through the season, that's what we'll build until they just a few people already are saying, "Oh, yeah, finally,
Mhm.
I've always wanted the freedom just to be able to go where
Yep.
my own imagination or mind wanted to take me,
Mhm.
or body wanted to take me." Um, but I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the feedback that it's opened up some level of confidence
Mhm.
for our participants in being able to just really let go and go, "Yep, at some level I've got this, and what I need is going to come,
Yep. Yep.
be obvious to me somehow."
Yep. Definitely. Mm. And there is a certain well, there's confidence, but I think there's also presence that comes with that
Mm,
too, like a real shift in um like I
mm,
trust myself, I trust my knowing,
mm.
I trust the timing. And then when that happens, there's a kind of a to
Yeah.
it that means that there's no striving and no grasping and reaching and all of those things where you're trying to make stuff happen
Mm.
and that stuff
Or
happens in
chopping and
its own
changing,
time.
or
Yeah, yeah,
mm,
exactly. Yeah,
mm.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a gift, it's such a resource.
Mm. Mm.
And I like that focus that's been coming out for our work recently of that having that confidence in your own decision making.
Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah. Because we've written that article, haven't we,
Mm,
for um yes, for an event that we're going to be attending in Nottingham in May. And we're going to be running a master's class in that as well around sovereign leadership too. So
mm,
that's all very exciting. We'll
yeah,
announce
great.
more about that as we get closer, I think.
Yeah,
Just a
certainly.
couple of months out. Cool. Well, that seems like a beautiful, beautiful place to
Yep,
stop.
I think that's done for me.
Brilliant. Great. So, yeah, so if you've enjoyed our conversation and you're intrigued about Sovereign Dialogue, then the link to register for the Sovereign Dialogue sessions is in the show notes. No need to have attended any of the sessions before, and uh, each session stands alone. So if you're interested in giving it a try and seeing what wisdom is within you, then please feel free to register. And we'll look forward to either seeing you on the next session or seeing you at the next live that we're doing, which will be the same time next week. See you then.
Great. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Great. Bye.
Bye bye.